Welcome. This is
Peter.
Learn to Do with Pete on 2024, March 24th. Scott.
Yes, sir. Just refresh what you said about adding something to the website. I was looking at a different part of the screen and not paying attention. Sorry.
No worries. Scott and I are working on leveling Scott up on editing the website, which is super cool. Because we might have something, RJ had a great idea. When you generate some art and there's one little thing missing or screwed up, like their eye or their hair or especially their hands. How do you fix those things? What tools? What are your go-to tools? um, I think it was Stacy. You mentioned non-free photo editors. Um, this
Sorry, what?
did I thought it was Stacy? Maybe I guessed wrong. Somebody mentioned Photoshop.
Oh, I just said Pixlr was a watered down version of Photoshop,
Yeah,
but you kind of need
yeah.
to know how to use um, the tools to do it
Yep.
in there.
Um, another choice is actually GIMP. Um, GIMP has a lot of the power of Photoshop, so it's not watered down, but it's also not as easy as you'd want, I think. Last time I tried it, maybe it's gotten easier.
Yeah,
It's
it's
actually a pretty
not
amazing
easy.
tool. Yeah, yeah. Um, and I feel like this is cheating. I use Photoshop, and Photoshop has the new generative thing where you just circle something and click generate, and it makes 3 alternative fill-ins for that. And often it's very good. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
that's what I was
completely
gonna. I
stupid.
haven't used it a lot, but I've heard that. And also, is that option available in Firefly or no?
It's a good question. Um, I actually, the only way I've ever done any Firefly, I think, is in somehow for a while you could do Firefly out of Photoshop, and I think I was doing that, but I haven't played around with Firefly for a while. Um, and RJ, so I guess so you can do in painting, but the tool you generated in might not be good at in painting the fix that you want, I guess is kind of the.
Yeah, like the only tool that I've ever done in painting with that I can remember, I think it was Firefly, but it gave me a watermark, and I used it to make. If you remember, I made a holiday greeting card, and I posted it on the salon in different guilds, and it was a picture that had a Santa Claus and the reindeer over the house, and that's the part that I did a generative of in painting. But then I
Yep.
think it created a watermark, and I had to get rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was first trying in painting or something like that, and I didn't quite get how the prompts worked. And I think this was in Draw Things, which is the stable diffusion thing. You'd circle somebody's hand, and then it's like, oh, so what prompt am I trying to use? Do I do hand? Do I use, guy standing next to a car or whatever? And I used to get little heads of people on their hands and stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh. Um, yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Thanks. Um, I have another, like, in the same way that Photoshop is kind of cheating, it's not free. I have another suggestion, which is especially not free, but I do much, much, much less than that, much less of it than I used to in Midjourney. Midjourney is the way Midjourney works is you don't have little glitches, or the glitches are so like dramatic that you can't fix them. So the way you fix, I guess, so this is actually a good story. If you're spendy and you don't mind having Midjourney, the way to fix things in Midjourney, the inpainting actually works pretty well. But a lot of times I'll just hit variation. I'll generate like a dozen variations, and sometimes the problem will go away. Often the problem will go away. And I do that more than I do in painting, although I do in painting too. So in this, so that I can mention Midjourney, so that's a different way to approach the same problem. Okay. So some of you might know a thing that I was calling jumble, taking 2 image prompts and interleaving them word for word. So I was doing that with just with ChatGPT. Think of one visual description, think of another, now put them together word by word, and then do that 10 times. And getting that to be deterministic or like to make sense in ChatGPT was hard. So I ended up writing a Python app with ChatGPT. And the Python app does a great job of interleaving stuff. So the good thing about Python, the good thing about learning, I'm going to simplify this really quick. I know we're talking about scary stuff already. It's really early in the morning, Pete. I can't believe it. But anyway, good thing about learning Python is you can do lots of amazing stuff with it. And Python is really good with files and text and stuff. It's also really good with web things. On the flip side, running a Python app is Danielle.
Hey, so I was looking up Dragon, and there's, I don't know, is it the one on Hugging Face, or which one is it? Or is it the one that says dragonAItool.com?
It's on GitHub. It's on GitHub, and there used to be a website. Yeah, there used to be a website you could go to, but I think they stopped using it.
So how do I access it?
You can't. That's the problem. You have to go to GitHub, and you have to go to GitHub, and you have to download it. It's local.
And then run it.
Yeah.
So why are you telling us about it, Pete?
Dude, I was not the one telling you. RJ was.
RJ, why you gotta, how dare you even like mention it if we can't even use it?
RJ was doing a good thing. What he was saying
I'm just playing.
There was this awesome tool, and if we could only figure out, how to. This exactly illustrates my point. All you need to do, quote unquote, is run this Python program.
Oh, that's all. If you knew how to do Python.
Well, so I have to say, I think my theory is, and we go back and forth on this, but my theory is it's not that hard to run Python. You can kind of, it's clunky. So let's figure out if we can, maybe some other day. I'll play around with Dragon and we'll see what we can do with it. Oops. Whales, whatever.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's a clever new technique there I've kind of got, but and I'll share it if I can figure out how to talk about it. Okay, so we'll put this link in here. Yikes. I'll play with it. Maybe it's not too hard. I kind of worry that it looks too easy. Like there's not enough AI stuff in here. But maybe there is, I don't know. So it might be a front end for some more like fancy stuff. Maybe you have to have Stable Diffusion installed as well or something, but we'll see.
And I also saw a Stable Drag, but I'm not too sure what that is. I saw a paper about it. I don't know whether it's available. Sorry about that.
Let's add it to the list at least. Okay, so it's awesome. Like it's pretty easy to write Python with ChatGPT. It's pretty easy to run it. It's not entirely, it's not like super basic, right? So I realized uh, web browsers actually have a pretty good code environment, and you don't have to do anything to run it. You just have to load a web page. So so it was that I came up with a different version of the interleaver thing. I have another one which is in Python. This one is one HTML file. So anybody can run this. All they need is a web browser. I think this would run on a phone too, although I haven't tried that. And this is one of the things that it's hard to, it's not fun to run Python on a phone, but it's super easy to load a web page on a phone. So so you probably know the idea. You ask ChatGPT for okay, and then you look for ones that are different. So bustling medieval marketplace is good. And that first one, tranquil excite at dawn. Yeah, I don't know. Let's do this one, majestic mountain peak. So you click the button, you've got an interleave thing. This one you have to say copy to clipboard, and then you have to click OK there, and then you generate. And I will put that prompt in the chat in case anybody else wants to copy and do something with it. So so I feel awesome because we solved one problem here. We made this super easy to run. So and especially like super easy to run on your computer, super easy to run, theoretically super easy to run on your phone, and super easy to give to somebody else to run. Like instead of saying, oh, all you have to do is figure out how to run Python, it's no big deal, like Pete says. It's really no big deal because it's just like load this web page. Let me actually try to. I don't know who's super adventurous this early in the morning, but this is theoretically just a text file, or sorry, yeah, an HTML file. I'm actually going to put that in the chat. Theoretically, you can click on that, download it. All you have to do is like open it in your browser, and then you've got this interleaver application all set to go. So this works because there's a whole programming language built into all the web browsers nowadays. It's a language called JavaScript. JavaScript is actually really powerful. It's a little bit, I don't know. I would say it's a little bit harder to read than Python, but once you get used to it, it's about the same. So anyway, this is the code for this. I didn't write this code, ChatGPT did. And I didn't write this whole web page even, ChatGPT did. So theoretically, we've got something that's easy to distribute and run. And I think we can walk through, continuing to kind of work on how you tell ChatGPT to write a program that you want in an HTML file now instead of a Python thing. So my idea, yay, my idea is to come up with some things to to do interesting prompts and write those up in an HTML page and then play with those together, doing image generation with our new prompt tool. And so let's brainstorm a bit. I wonder, let me show you these most recent images, including the whales, but particularly, sorry, I'm gonna have to scroll down some more. So I'm always looking for ways to get more interesting prompts, right? Or more random prompts. But this is more interesting prompts. So this one I did, let me do a little bit of show and tell because I did this right before this session. And it kind of illustrates a fairly dramatic way to do some brainstorming and get interesting images. Like this historical painting, which is also an abstract. So the way I did this was I said, hey, ChatGPT, I can, it's early in the morning, so I can think of a couple different things that paintings are. I was playing with paintings yesterday. So there's portraits, there's landscapes, there's still lifes, and you can always get more information from ChatGPT by saying, hey, I know a couple things, what are some others? So it came up with a bunch of different kinds of paintings. And where I was going with this was, the next thing I was going to say was, hey, ChatGPT, give me a painting in each of these or something like that. But then I had this whole list, and it was a nice long list because I didn't think it would come up with this many. So I'm like, okay, pick 2 of those kinds of paintings and then describe a painting halfway between them and then do that 10 times. So this is a pretty good way to do, I'll do this do 10 times thing sometimes, and then you get, a bunch that you can copy and paste into your generator. So this actually worked really well. Historical abstract, landscape fantasy, and, and so I got a bunch of cool images this way. I've also got my default chaos here is usually pretty high because I love it. Chaos is called variety now in the alpha interface. So I also, there's a lot of randomness in here. I could probably turn down, one of the rules of generating stuff randomly is you don't need randomness in 2 places. So because these are kind of like already kind of random, you don't need to turn up, you could turn down the chaos and then get, I don't know, you might get better stuff that way. Anyway, so thanks for going for a little show and tell. Here's, here, by the way, is our medieval mountain marketplace. That came out really good, I think. I especially like this one. A lot of the medieval marketplaces are a lot more boring than this. So, and a lot of the majestic mountains, I love majestic mountains, but after generating, hundreds of them, these are more interesting. So there you go. So this is interleaver, which I also call jumble. Okay, so now let's brainstorm a little bit. Awesome, Scott. I didn't know Zoom would actually show pictures. That's awesome too, Danielle. If y'all want, we could post these to, I think I would post them to Learn and Do, but you could post them to Show and Tell, and we can look through them a little bit later too. Danielle.
Okay, so I downloaded this thing, this interleaver. And so are you going to show us how to use this right now?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I wonder if you're on a Mac or PC.
I am on a Mac. I'm on a Mac.
Okay. It doesn't matter, but so you'll have, yeah, don't do the apps repeat. Do Finder instead. So now you have it like here, right?
Okay, I do.
This is gonna be.
I just have it. It's in a tab right now. It says I downloaded it. Okay, so I need to go.
Well,
yeah.
no. That's even better. So it looks like this, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that the way to run this is to double click it.
Already. Yeah, it's already in the tab.
It's running. You're set.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm ready to go.
So
just show
now
us
put
what
a
to
prompt in each one. Click interleave. This one.
Well, how about you just like tell us what to do and we'll copy you.
Okay. That sounds great.
That way, so you do, then we do, and then you do.
So,
yeah.
So the tricky part is having a prompt. Hopefully, Danielle, you'll have a prompt lying around, or.
I just want to copy what you do first, and then I'll work on my own.
I'm going to put this in chat. Okay. Here's that one. Is that okay?
That sounds perfect. That's exactly what I want you to do. Perfect.
not all web browsers, but maybe many web browsers. The way this is set up also, there's a little drag icon in the lower right. That's actually not a feature of Interleaver. It's just a feature of kind of the web browser for certain things, and it works in Interleaver. If you feel too constrained there, you can drag this around and make it bigger. So then let's try another one. So we'll use this prompt and paste that into text2, and then click the interleave button and observe how cool is.
Wait, hold on. Why are we putting in so it's basically mixing two different prompts. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's mixing two different prompts together to create an image. Is that what I'm not sure what's happening? Or is it
Yeah,
creating
so
a new
you're
prompt?
not interrupting. You're asking a great question. I'm going super fast as I usually do. So this is, I call this a Kaminsky method, and I call this jumble two prompts together. And the idea is you take a word from, let's do a simpler 1, 2, 3. So you can follow along and do this or not. Red, blue, green. So then when I click the interleave button, the thing is programmed to take the one word from one prompt and then the next word from the second prompt and back and forth like that. So 1 red, 2 blue, 3
That's
green.
cool. Did you make this, Pete? Or did you find this?
Made it.
Oh my gosh, this is so
He
cool.
just explained how he made it earlier. You weren't watching.
No, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't get it. I'm trying to understand.
There's a
Thank
lot
you.
going on here, and there's a lot going on. So
Well,
I totally get it.
Peter, can I also just add in that maybe people aren't aware of what your approach is overall? And if I could try to say it in a nutshell, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I get the impression Peter is liking to, wanting to explore different types of ways to create images without necessarily having to write the prompt himself. And because, a person can only think of so many and unique imaginative things. So he's, being a programmer, figured out ways to, various different ways to come up with really unusual prompt ideas by programmatically getting the ideas from other places or to combine prompts, or, and so he's named them different methods, Kaminsky methods, and they've actually turned out to be able to generate some very unusual pictures that you probably wouldn't have thought of yourself.
Exactly, RJ. Thanks. And to add a little color into that, back around 1980, actually, in the early 80s, one of the things, I was a software developer writing home video games, and I worked with, I had a good buddy who I worked with, and he was a sound engineer and a musician. He was a classically trained musician, and somehow he didn't mind fiddling with the tech stuff. The tech stuff back then was super basic and super brutally simple. So this was the 8-bit era. So I was doing 8-bit programming, the tech programming, and then my friend Russell would be doing sound engineering and music. And it was kind of a gift. I learned how an artist works with a technical tool. So Russell was an artist, he was a musician. And the way that you, awesome, Danielle. The way that you made sounds on the home video game system was you'd actually write little bits of code and stuff like that. And so he taught himself enough coding to get sound and music, and then he used a music utility we had. But the thing that he did that surprised me was he would sit down with a thing and fiddle with it. I've seen analog synthesizer people do kind of the same thing. Analog synthesizer, or even a digital synthesizer now, it's got lots and lots of knobs and stuff. And the way that you so you have this technical tool that can do a lot of cool things. And a lot of times what you want is just to kind of, the new digital synthesizers actually have a button that says randomize. It's a little picture of dice or something like that. And it fiddles all the knobs. And then it makes a horrible squeaky sound, or it makes, you know, like a low thump, thump, thump sound that's kind of useless. And you go, huh, that's interesting. So then you like start tuning some of the other knobs, and you kind of shape it to get what you want. So that's kind of what I'm doing with Midjourney, or Stable Diffusion or whatever. So another way to, so so kind of inspired by a frustration in not getting what I wanted from image generators, I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to give it a mess, a dog's breakfast, and see what it does. And then sort through the mess and find the ones that I really like, and go to town. So it's also a little bit like fishing. Or it's a little bit like being a gold miner or something like that. And you chip through a bunch of different, you just go up to a mountain, you chip through a bunch of different places. You start to learn a little bit, like, you know, what kinds of places are likely to be better than others. Street photography is kind of the same thing. A lot of photography is just taking a lot of pictures, right? And kind of making sure that you end up in places where the pictures are going to be interesting. And then when they start to get interesting, knowing what to do to get more of it, right? Or to get, you know, or to be able to tweak it and get kind of what you want.
Yeah, what
You
I
guys are
like
doing
about your
awesome stuff.
approach, Peter, is you're saving a lot of time, sort of. You're
I,
saving time
yeah,
because
yeah,
otherwise, if you have to sit and think of prompts, and I mean, it's
yep.
just, but instead let the machine churn out a whole bunch of stuff, and then you can just go back later and just, oh, you usually find something that pops right out at you right away. So that's a great time saver, I think.
And this is the general thing is anybody can do. I actually started in what anybody who's got a LLM. I started doing this in ChatGPT actually more than anything else, more than programmatically. So just kind of the way I did, you know, what are some different kinds of paintings, and then mix those. Um, the I used to do this all the time. Imagine household scenes. You know, just pick something. And the general phrase I use is something like write 10 interesting or captivating or, you know, boring or whatever. Visual description is works pretty well with the LLMs. And then you can go, you can get, you know, you can tell it to, usually nowadays with ChatGPT, if I say, you know, visual description, it'll get about the right size of something. You don't want these too short, and you don't want them too long. But I just come up with different ways to elicit visual descriptions out of the LLM, you know, and then you've got something you can work with. So so the thing I ended up having a problem with was ChatGPT is only so imaginative. It's actually very imaginative. Um, by the way, back in the day, these were you know, you'd write 5.2 prompts. Midjourney 5.2 needed short little visual phrases, so I used to do those. Midjourney 6 is happy with these kind, and so is Dolly. And I don't know about Stable Diffusion. I think Stable Diffusion, I'd have a custom format for that. So anyway, you know, after you can kind of only come up with so many. I mean, if you write 10, you know, if you say write 10 captivating visual descriptions, ChatGPT will come up with, you know, like 50 or 100, I don't know, but at some point they start to repeat. Like I've seen, you know, like underwater coral forest, blah, 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 you know, over and over and over. And it's like, okay, so how am I going to, how am I going to plus this up, you know? And so that was coming up with, and actually I did it with ChatGPT first. Now mix adjacent prompts. by zippering them. Whoever said that in chat. Yeah, actually this should work. So I think it did this smarter than I wanted it to. And the first time I did, let me, a small sunlit corner of the living room. This is great too. I'm super happy with this. I guess I do think a little bit like a programmer. Actually, I want to do this here. So it's a little bit this. It also reminds me of Danielle's. What do they call it, Danielle? Mad Libs. Let's do something a little bit different. So one day I was like, how about if I take one word from one prompt, the next word, and so on and so forth. And I actually told ChatGPT to do that, and it can do it okay, but it doesn't always do exactly what you want, and sometimes the result isn't what you want. So, and another problem I had is I like to do 10 prompts at a time. Actually, now it's up to 13. But anyway, you do 10 at a time, getting it to do, imagine a visual description, now imagine another visual description, now put those two visual descriptions together, word, interleave word by word, and then do that 10 times. That starts to get close to GPT-4's understanding of different things. So I'm like, screw it. I'll write a Python program, and I know how to ask ChatGPT to write a Python program, and then I know how to run a Python program, and we're good to go. So I was happy with my Python program until I realized that nobody else could do it. So that's how we got this. So now let's brainstorm some other ways to have an app like this, and to do something creative with the prompts. Let me give you a couple quick ideas. One of them is ask ChatGPT for for a prompt, and then do something weird with it, like reverse all the words or something.
Wait, Bobby just had a quick question. Do you still use
Go for it,
random
Bobby.
characters, punctuation, numbers, or did you get away from that?
I've I've tried everything, and I don't stop trying new things. So that was another one, write 10 strings of random emojis. I thought this was enchanting, and it still is. I haven't been doing that for a long time, but yeah, I'll do that kind of stuff all the time. These will be super fun prompts. You don't have to use these, of course. You could use Ask ChatGPT. Well, anyway, longer story. Danielle, you've got your hand up too.
Oh, hey, no, what you're doing right now is, I don't know if you guys saw my TikTok that I made with the emojis text back and forth with my son, and he would have me make
Yeah, I
images.
remember that.
Okay, well, no, that was a tangent right there, but that was a lot of fun actually. And so, and there's another way to do that where you like lap the emojis on top of each other, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that next with him, but that's only with an iPhone. But anyway, I was gonna ask, when you're putting the prompts together, does it matter? Is it literally taking one word and then another next word, one word, and the next word? Is that how it's doing it? Is that why it has that double A at the front of it?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
And
And
then
on the,
it's
oh, sorry, you finished that, and then I just have a related question.
yes. Oh, sorry. So it's up to you whether or not you copy and paste that over, actually. I guess so.
Okay,
The
I
way
left
this
it
is set
out.
up, you can just copy it off the thing like this. It's nice to have a little button. There's a UX bug here. When you're using a program and it's like clunkier than it should be, and you're going, yeah, stupid programmers or stupid UX designers. I can't believe they did this. This one has got a bug that I've left in here because I wanted to fix it together maybe someday. But one of the problems with this one is you click interleave, and then you click copy to So this is 2 buttons already I have to click, and now I have to
Mhm.
click another button. I have to click OK before I'm done with it. So
Mhm.
you could actually collapse that down to one button. As soon as you click interleave, it should be on your clipboard, and we could
Oh,
do that actually. But
so
anyway,
Pete, are you gonna
so
try
then
and
you've got
sell
the
this?
what's that?
Are you gonna try and sell this, or are you you're just
No,
doing it? Oh, I was gonna say it's
it's a
pretty
good
good.
question. I will
You
throw it
could.
into my. I'm I'm going to be doing Midjourney courses for pay, and I'm going to be throwing things like you know, uh, early access to fun toys like this. But more to the point, what I'd really like to do is to teach you guys how to write things like this, and then have these things distributed all over the world. One of the things about selling this is all the source code is here. So anybody can, like if I put, Interleaver app by the amazing and wonderful Peter Kaminsky, somebody could just like delete the amazing, wonderful Peter Kaminsky and put their name, and poof, they're done. That's how they would rip it off, which is fine. So the moral of the story is to make these kinds of things open source. Uh, Whole nother topic that we might cover, at least the folks who I'll say this on a call description. Releasing this as an open source app is an awesome and wonderful thing to do. This one is a little bit simple, but you could make this into an open source thing, and then hopefully people can copy it. If they're ripping you off, instead of like ripping you off and not telling you, at least they copy it, and um, it's still connected to your original thing. And the even cooler thing with open source is people can make changes and then give you back the changes. Like it would be awesome to have this be a little bit prettier. This is very boring, which is fine for what it is, but
So if I can ask my question now related to what Danielle asked. Danielle asked about the punctuation, and I have a related question. So if I'm trying to get an image generator to understand certain concepts, like I want the arm to be pointing this way, I want the leg to be pointing that way, I want the hair to be this color, the eye to be that color. How is it that you group that with either punctuation or markdown characters or triple single quotes? How do you group the information so that it can focus on sort of like bunches of instructions grouped together and not mix them all up and get all confused?
I'm going to write this down with a header and then not say much about it for now. How to arrange elements in a um uh uh the well, this is actually like a completely different topic. It sounds similar to what we're doing, and it's completely different. So this is, this is kind of, I've never had much luck doing this. And especially like draping arms the right way or putting legs in the right place or something like that. I'm not really sure how easy it is to do it. Um, the one of the things, the early thing that we found doing Stable Diffusion or something like that, it's like hard to get the camera zoomed in the right way. It's like the top of the head is cut off, or their body is cut off, or it's got, whatever, right? So the fix for that is to not describe how the person is situated in the photo. It's to describe a scene where the person is naturally situated a certain way. So instead of saying a person in a person on the sidewalk, holding a skateboard or something like that. I guess I did it myself already. You don't talk about the way the person is. You give them props, or you set up the scene. You talk about the scene, and they naturally fit into the scene a certain way, and that's the way to get it to work. Starting to, especially I think some of the image generators are getting better at this element arrangement. But it's still like, you can do things now in Midjourney. You can say, this kind of person should be on the left, this kind of person should be on the right, and I think it'll actually do a pretty good job of it. But arranging the scene around them and then having them naturally fit into it is a better way to do it. So kind of the same thing, instead of saying her legs are on the ottoman, you would say a woman sitting, sitting comfortably in a sofa with the ottoman or something like that. You wouldn't try to move her legs. You'd try to set up the scene so that when the image generator drops a person into it, they just fall into place. The other thing I learned early on was people who are, I'm okay with Photoshop. I'm not super with Photoshop. The people who were doing amazing AI stuff where everything was perfectly arranged, what they would be doing is generating a whole bunch of assets. Generate legs mostly, a person and lots of different ways of arranging their legs, and angel wings or something like that. They would generate all the elements, and then they would composite them together in Photoshop. Getting an image generator to do the right thing with placing stuff is a pain, and anything you try to do to explain it usually distracts it. So you'll end up with a football on their head instead of in their hand, or whatever, or the person shaped like a football, or God knows what. So this is an interesting topic, and we could practice on it someday a little bit. But let's not do it today.
Thanks for that, Peter. I found the exact same thing that you mentioned from my experiments too, that it's much easier to get the results you want if you say a situation where it's probably already been trained and already seen the picture that looks sort of like what you want. But I did find that if I do some fairly sophisticated prompt writing with triple quotes and putting concepts together in those triple quotes so that it knows the pieces that I'm trying to get. Like I was able to get a comic anime character beholding a magnifying glass in front of its eye and face in front of one eye, and that the magnifying glass would show the eye bigger in front of because it's being held there. And I was like really amazed I was able to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about that sometime. That would be a fun exercise. And I know we've got some pretty good folks who can do different kinds of element arranging. It would be a fun thing to talk about.
Thank you.
So let's get back and brainstorm a little bit. I know it's a little confusing or a little. Let me stop the screen share, because otherwise we see Pete's screen, and it's like all I can think about is Pete's screen. Let's talk. Let's write an HTML page like that does something interesting to make cool prompts. So something RJ just said was an interesting thing. I've had luck generating random words and putting there the commas, and that's a fun thing to do. Another thing I'd like to do is take all the words in a prompt and reverse the order of them. Take all the characters in a prompt and reverse the order of them, things like that. What are some other ways to generate fun strings, either messing up existing strings or even generating new strings to make interesting prompts? What do we think? And does the question even make sense? Maybe the question doesn't make sense.
I don't use prompts as often as you do. I do blends, but I also I've been looking at trying to find weird ways of blending.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is off topic or not.
No, I think that's on topic.
So one thing that I've been doing is as the image is rendering on the screen, you know, it
Mhm.
goes through the 35%, 55%, and it shows it in its noisy state where it hasn't been denoised yet. And I've taken screenshots of a number of those and blended those randomly with images, and it does interesting things.
I'm gonna, let's see, I'm making a new section in the HackMD, brainstorming ways to get cool images, I guess. So that is blend images, but stop the generator partway. It's not
No,
quite what you said, but
yeah, no. At some point today or yesterday or whatever, I will have already taken multiple screenshots as
screenshots.
an image is being generated. And so it's like blobs of green and pink, and then you can see the outline of maybe a face in the green and the
Yep.
pink, etc. So and then just take one of those screenshots and blend it with I don't know, the Eiffel Tower, and it it doesn't just make the Eiffel Tower green and pink. It does unusual things to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. I like that. And the way I would adapt it to this HTML thing is, so it's a little tricky. A big chunk of that is not something that the browser can do, right? But the browser could like have a list of different kinds of instructions. Now now take a screenshot of a partially generated image. Now do this, now do that. You could have it mix those up or put them in a different order or come up with ideas for you so we could program something like that. RJ?
Bobby made a comment, and that gave me an idea. So basically, what I'm thinking of is there's some terminology associated with images, especially photography. And I think at one point I posted an image generating prompt guideline booklet. I'll try to find it, but it had all the different terms, and it also showed
Yep.
pictures of what the terms mean, like panoramic, blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, well, maybe it would be good to programmatically do something with that information, because basically the model's already seen a gazillion pictures that were tagged. Okay, so it's been trained on that in the image, it's been trained on the tag. So those are basically the elements that you can play with that the model will understand. So if one thing you can do is you could write a prompt, and then you can have your tool pick out words from that prompt and put in the correct words. That's one possible thing, because maybe you're trying to do something, but you're not explaining it probably precisely the right way, so you're not going to get what you want. So if your tool could find the right terminology and replace it, that's one possibility. Another thing is programmatically, you could cycle through some of the different options or combine unique combinations of options like cinematographic microscope or something like that.
Yep.
I'm just brainstorming here.
Yeah, those are great.
Because I think you really
Uh,
need to work with how the model's been trained. It's just like you said before. You
Yep.
said, hey, you got to work with a scene that it's already going to be creating what you want because it's already knows how to do that. It's already going to give you that probably. So that I'm sort of thinking along those same lines, but in a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah, that's really smart. And that's kind of what I'm going for. And I've done that kind of stuff with ChatGPT actually. You know, I've asked it, you know, what are a bunch of different photo techniques or, you know, something like that, or equipment. And then use those to generate prompts. We could certainly write something that did that, a programmatic thing.
And another thing I
Um,
just thought of is things that make up a picture from an artistic point of view. You have composition, you have color, all of those things. I think a lot of those things people just sort of ignore in their prompts, you know, except for maybe the really well-trained artistic people. So, or photographic people. Maybe the photographic people know about composition elements and the different
yeah.
things you can combine about those. So I would put that in your palette too, and have another vocabulary to choose from regarding composition and color, hues, tone. All of those different things are all different dimensions you could use to vary and possibly create prompts with.
Love it, RJ. Um, so
I
to,
got more if you want. Genres, you can think of all different genres of situations, any kind of vocabulary that you could think of that could be used in a and created an image you could pick from.
yep. So to write the code for that, we'd have kind of a little library of, and we can use ChatGPT to generate or find it on the web, little library of photo techniques, like compositional arrangements, you know, color terms and stuff like that. So we'd have a little list of those, and then we would write a program that said, you know, take one from column A, one from column B, one from column C, mix them up, add some whatevers, you know, add some terms or verbs or nouns or whatever, adjectives. Um, uh, so that's definitely doable, and it gets a little bit bigger than I was hoping to do really quick. So and
And
I
with
realized,
that, Peter, Stacy wants to know what was your initial question?
yeah. Let me try to do a better job of restating it, or let me suggest a way that we can do something quick and dirty. Um, uh, so I think kind of what I was looking for was, let's do a simple transformation, it's called. Let's transform a text from one text to another text, or maybe let's make a text that has some transformation in it or something like that. So without even having a library of different terms, the interleaver is a good example of a simple transformation that's easy for a computer, easy to describe to a computer. It's easy for computers to do any of this kind of stuff, but it's hard to describe what you want exactly, right? So the more elements you have, the harder the description is. Um, it's really easy to describe what I want if I say, take a word, you know, imagine two strings, take a word from the first one and then a word from the second one, and so on and so forth. That's really easy to describe. Another thing that might be easy to describe. So what we want to do is take a string of text, maybe like a prompt, an existing prompt, and do something that's easy to explain to a computer. So another easy thing to do would be to swap each individual, swap the adjacent characters. So a computer, when it looks at a string of text like that, what it sees is characters, so each individual character. And then you can also without even understanding what the words are, you can say, hey, I know that you know what a word is, because, well, it's easy to say, for any characters that have a space between them, you know, it's easy to do things where the boundaries are on spaces. It's easy to do things where the boundaries are on commas too. So if we so my brainstorming question is, what are some simple rearrangements that we can do with an existing text? Or maybe another thing that we could tackle maybe is to have a long list of words. I've got a list of 5,000 words hanging out. Let's take a long list of words and just pick random words from that and put those in a line, something like that. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm
just thinking.
realizing, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just taking it all in.
I realize as I'm doing this that basically I'm describing a 110 computer science 110, or even past that. You know, it's like a couple steps advanced to be thinking about what a computer thinks of when it looks at a string of text. So I apologize for kind of like jumping in at a higher up level. It's not a difficult concept, but it's maybe a foreign concept.
And
So
this is
maybe,
within the confines of using JavaScript basically in an HTML page? Is that where our limitations are?
yeah, and JavaScript can do pretty much anything. So the limitation isn't the JavaScript. The limitation is actually how easy it is to describe it.
So could you
ChatGPT
maybe
and
off the top of
JavaScript.
your head list a few word related things that JavaScript can do, perhaps, or is it, or maybe it doesn't have that capability?
The things that are easy to do are things where the things that are easy to describe are things where it doesn't have any understanding of what it's doing beyond what kind of character it is, more or less, and where it is in the string. So it's easy to say mix these words together, because to do that, it just looks for a space, and then, you know, it says, okay, here's a word. It doesn't have any idea what the word is. And so it's easy to say, imagine two strings and then take the first word, you know, do that is super easy. Let me just pick one that I think is kind of easy, and we'll see if we can get it done in the next 20 minutes or so. And thanks for going through this with me. We got some great things. I like the way you were thinking, RJ, and maybe we could do that next level up or something like that.
It
So let
would
me
be
share
good
my
if you had the
screen.
AI companion running next time so it could take notes and we could look back at it. And also so people can do catch up. If
Yeah,
they
good
join
point.
late, they can look at the AI companion to see what was covered.
Good point. I'll try to start doing that. I already do the summarizer, but then that's only good after the fact. So the AI companion would be super helpful. You're right. Although I don't know that I don't know what it would summarize what I've just said. It probably would be pretty good. At least you could go, here Pete's talking about obscure computer stuff or whatever. So maybe let me do some quick brainstorming, because if I write these down, then we can choose more easily. Interleave 3 prompts is a thing that we could do. Reverse pairs of words. Reverse the whole string. Add random commas. Add random emojis, maybe. Add and S to the end of each word. Okay, which one of these should we try? Whoever blurts it out the loudest or first wins. I should be looking at chat too. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at chat.
Let's do reverse pair words.
Okay. Good choice. This is kind of like in Beetlejuice or Ghostbusters or something like that. Make a choice. It's like, dude, you choose that. So reverse pairs of words, right? Let me see if I can cheat. So now what we're going to do is we're not going to pretend we're programmers, although I realized now that you kind of need to have a little bit of programmer mojo to know what's going on here even. Let me see if I've got word selector HTML. This is probably, oh, this was me sketching out the choose from 5,000 random words. We'll come back to that one someday. Interleave app creation. Okay, so here we go. This is pretty much, this is how I wrote interleaver. So we'll copy and paste this to a new ChatGPT thing and then fix it using HTML. So the CSS didn't work. We'll come back to that someday. This acts as an app, I think is not really necessary, but we'll leave it for now. This part is left over from Python, but it's still okay. Web page, 2 text boxes. Okay, so 1 text box for input. And a button. Stacy, that was you, right? What should we call this transformation? Reverse, mix,
Yeah.
Jankify.
Yeah.
When the form data is submitted. So this is
How
partially
about reverse
written.
Jankify? So we know that
Reverse-
reverse is in there.
Reverse Jankify. Part of these instructions, and I'd like to kind of make these, they're tuned a little bit for the Python stuff, and it's not quite the right way to say it for the HTML stuff. So we'll keep getting this better, but so transform text 1 by reversing pairs of words. Okay, so this, by the way, this is a super duper thing that I've learned, or I came up with recently. Tell it to do a whole bunch of stuff, but then before you do it, do you have any clarifying questions? And it will sometimes ask really useful questions. Although it surprised me recently, and it said, "Nope, totally clear. I get it. I'm going to do it." Do you mean so? So trying to figure out what we were saying here, and it's like, "Yep, that's what I meant." So 1, yes. Whenever you're programming, you end up with these things. Okay, what are the corner cases? If we have an odd number of words, what do you do with the word at the end? Do we drop it? Do we leave it? So I think we'll just leave it. Or actually, let's say double it. Specific, basic is great. So now it's talking about what it should do. Here's what I think we're doing. And it's going to make this awesome HTML file, and there's a good chance it will just work. Yeah, looking at the code, there's a good chance it'll just work. So, so then you find this here, copy code. I'm gonna do this a weird way. We'll cover how to do this better another way, but a weird super fast way to do this on a Mac is pb paste this into reverse Jankify. I could have slightly less fast way would be to go to text edit. Let's do it, I guess. Well, let's not. We're short on time. I could have gone to text editor notepad, create a new text file, paste it in, save it, put the file name, and that would have worked just fine. So now, and then you would double click in Finder on it. I'm going to do it on command line because it's easier. Okay, so what do you think? Is it going to work? Let's try this
I have
one.
faith.
I am scared. Yay, it worked. Love it. So this one was an odd number of words, so it had to say tapestries, which is great. So I will paste that prompt. But even more cooler, if I can find it on my computer. Let's see, it'll be in Finder. Even more cool. I'll paste it there. And now I'm gonna guess that it's not gonna work on iPhone. Scott figured out that interleaver doesn't work as shipped. Okay. There's an interesting thing with Midjourney. This is probably going to be with DALL-E too. Probably most of them. It actually kind of gets a lot of each prompt, or in this case, I guess the Jenkified prompt. But it also does interesting things. Okay, well, so that was super successful. So maybe not this time, but maybe in a couple times, maybe this time, people will be building their own of these. It would be nice to talk a little bit about adding, so this should say something like copyright 2024 Peter Kaminsky. I would make it Creative Commons or actually MIT license maybe. So distributed under MIT license, yada yada. You can feel free to use interleaver and reverse Jankify. I would kind of appreciate it if we got a little bit more further along and actually had some credits in here, and especially maybe a link to a GitHub repository. So all of that is like release stuff, publishing stuff. It's all very rote, but we should have kind of a checklist of, do you have a copyright statement? Do you have a dedication to, do you, there's a funny thing where Creative Commons licenses aren't the same for software. So a good Creative Commons like license for software is called MIT. Do you have a license for it and all that kind of stuff? Yes, Bobby, exactly. You could keep doing more and more stuff. And so I imagine these things will get, you could get fancier. How is this called interleaver? Because I screwed up the, let's at least fix that. And so if I open this with TextEdit or Notepad, yeah, that didn't help. So I need to open this. Let's cover we can do two things. We can play with another one and we can try another one or two of these. Let's do that. Let me, so one way to do it is I could go in and edit this. You can also, it's totally fair and often easier. This is going to sound funny. I feel bad making it type the whole thing over again, especially knowing it's going token by token in some crazy GPU when I could have just edited that. But a lot of times the change you want to make is going to be more complicated, and it's totally fine to have ChatGPT fix it. So let me. Yeah, that's not what I want. So before I publish this version 2 of this, I'm going to test it to make sure it still works. It still works. So now, please don't use the one called interleaver. Please use the one called reverse Jankify. Okay, let's do. These are just text files. You get a little bit of confusion because it's named HTML. And so now thinking through that, one of the tricks is just rename this to be text, and then it'll be much more the right thing. Open with text edit. Open with text edit. That was Mac being too smart. So now it'll look like this. This is HTML code. Don't worry too much about like all the scary stuff. Just find, if you can see the name, like here's the name here and here. You can edit that and it'll just change magically. You're a programmer, HTML programmer. If you screw something up, the way that you would screw something up is by dropping off one of these. These have to come in pairs in HTML P/P. By the way, this is why we use Markdown instead of HTML. You could screw this up and it would still probably work. It might break. You're not going to break your computer or anything like this. You can screw this up all the ways that you can possibly think of. We could reverse Jankify this whole thing and it wouldn't work. It would do something wacky on a web page, but it's not going to break anything. So feel free to like munge these however you want. Feel free to learn CSS and fix this, whatever. If you mess around inside the script thing, so the script thing is the thing where it says what the code is. This is a lot more fragile. If I just leave off something up here, leave off this /h1, it probably won't even notice. If you munge something in here, it'll actually, let's try it real quick and break something. And I'm going to save this as broken, which is spelled like this by programmers. So this is because I left off the H1. That's fine. I think we're going to get a weird error. So it just doesn't do anything. You don't have to learn this today, but there's a debugging console built into desktop web browsers at least. And so you can find that error. I don't recommend that. Well, I mean, if you're bold, just do it. But this is like, oh yeah, I went and typed random stuff into the code. No wonder it's broken. So there you go. But you're not going to screw anything up. So feel free to like munge around with your generated HTML. Okay, 5 more minutes. Let's pick another one. Let's do. Okay, somebody else pick. Which one of these should we do next?
Well, I was wondering whether if you group the words or something like that, that it would make a difference. Like it's not on your list there, but Like,
So
you could
I think
programmatically do that. You could say, hey, JavaScript,
group them into,
create a
yeah.
random number, group certain words in bunches, put triple quotes around those bunches. And that actually might change the results. It would be interesting
Yep.
to, not that,
Yep.
not that you could actually test it and verify it.
Well, you could, right? You can create a prompt, generate five different versions with that prompt, and then do the quotifier, and then generate those, right?
But the problem is
Group
you won't really
it
know because
into,
AI image generation is stochastic. It's not deterministic. So you have no
yeah,
idea what how you're
you
changing things unless you do enough of them over and over and over, and then maybe you'll notice a pattern.
I would do, it's funny, 4 doesn't seem like quite enough, but 5 does. I would do 5 or 10, and you definitely get a vibe. You know, these sets are different from these sets. You know, these are all red, yellow, and these are multicolor or something like that. You'll definitely see a difference. So a good way to do this is in ChatGPT, take the string grouped into 2 to 4 word chunks, wrap each with triple quotes. Um, so that is super easy to describe to, actually it failed on the triple quote thing. Make each double quote triple. Do you mean triple double quotes or triple single quotes?
Well, I think triple single quotes is typically used in AI to make it realize that something's uh, to be looked at in a bunch in as a group of things,
I'm
sort of
not
like a
familiar with that.
delimiter.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah, that's
familiar with
I've
that.
seen that before. I have
I
seen that
feel like,
before in many
oh yeah, yeah.
places for prompt
I feel
generation.
like
Yeah.
that's a stable diffusion thing. I think Midjourney may or may not do something different with it. So definitely another common delimiter is actually backtick, it's called, which is the character kind of in the upper left of your keyboard.
I mean, oh, maybe
Um,
that's what I'm thinking of. Triple backtick.
just one backtick is actually good enough. So backticks work in Markdown, and ChatGPT understands it. Anyway, let's do something similar and a little bit more boring. This was the intent I had for add random commas. So getting this described to ChatGPT for JavaScript. Excuse me. This is going to be a little bit hard. So if we just drop random commas, it'll at least break it up into clauses, kind of. So I'm going to do the same thing. Take this prompt, and we're going to go over a few minutes, but not too many. Well, that sucks. Yikes, I wanted the other question. Oh. Um, let's see. Random. Ooh, specific pattern. Can you imagine? That would be really cool if it did every second word, every third word, every fourth word, every second, third, fourth, every second, third, fourth. So this will work better with a longer prompt. Okay, so grab this. Let me see how easy it is for me to make a new text file. Okay, so I'm in TextEdit or Notepad. I made a new text file, file new, paste it, save it. And I'm saving it to Peter Kaminsky, source code, interleaver. Oh, source Peter Kaminsky, interleaver, oops, interleaver HTML. Okay, so now I'm going to call this commafire.text. When you're using Notepad or TextEdit, they'll be a lot less confused if you call things .text. So then I go find it in here and rename it. And it's like, dude, are you really sure? Yes, I'm sure. And then you just double click to open it. This is kind of interesting and ugly, this output thing here. So another time we can talk about how to make these prettier, or more standard or whatever. So let's grab visual household scenes, media room, Comify. So there you go. So we could have put triple quotes. We could have put backticks, whatever. I think I'm not. We'd have to. It'd be good to experiment, I guess, and different. So you can imagine a commifier or whatever you would call it. You might have a checkbox here or a pull down or something that says use commas, use triple quotes, use backticks, use whatever, right? So
Yeah, it would be
you
good
kinda-
to look at the manual for whatever image app you're using,
Yes,
image model,
exactly.
and see what its syntax is, what its prompt guidelines or rules are, and then
Yep.
use that for the guideline for your specific tool, your image generator. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and it would be fun to give the wrong kind of prompts to the different generators and see what happens. So I did a quick experiment, and the thing to do is just try it. I did 2 with the commas and 2 without the commas. Another thing to try would be another thing to try would be if I click this again, it'll change where the commas are. So you also notice this one doesn't have the copy button. So let's try this one, which is comified a little bit differently. So kind of what we'd expect. There's not much difference between this one with commas and this one.
Yeah, and this might be just totally random anyway, so it may be
Yeah.
ignoring what we're doing. I mean,
Yeah,
you're trying
I was
to
wondering if this is the
establish
same.
causation, and it's, there
You
may
still
be
get
a
a feel for it,
correlation,
kind
it's
of.
just random,
Yeah. Let's see what this prompt is. It's
I
interesting
think
that
a lot of people change their prompts and they think they're actually causing something to
yes,
happen, where in
yes,
reality, it's
it's
just the
just random.
model
Yes.
is, yeah. I mean, we're
Um,
talking about diffusion models here, so I mean, they in
Yeah.
particular are.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by this woman here. With this kind of prompt, I wouldn't usually expect this. Oh, there's another woman there. So I think a little bit, maybe it's the fairy lights or something like that, or the way the seating is broken up or something. This changed it a little bit, not a lot. So to do more of this, I like this random comments thing, but it's not, but it needs more work to be really dramatic. So these other ones probably would be more dramatic. I like adding an S to the end of each word. That's a good one. Let's try that one real quick, and then let's wrap up. I wasn't watching very carefully how I edited that ChatGPT prompt. It's weird that our copy button fell off. Maybe it's not weird. I don't know. Yeah, the copy button fell off, I guess. I'll put this prompt in the channel later today. There's a whole bunch of questions. Probably technically you should just copy it to the clipboard as soon as it's transformed, but then the person doesn't know it's happened. So adding a button, helps somebody know what's going on. But then a different way to do it is not to have the button, but explain that in documentation or something like that. So we'll get into some interesting design questions here at some point. So that's a great thing. The JavaScript, when we say a word, it doesn't actually understand like what a word is the way ChatGPT does. A word to a programming language is usually just anything that that's separated by spaces. So the question that ChatGPT had there was like, okay, so if you have a comma at the end of your word, JavaScript is going to put the S after the comma. Do you want it there or do you want it before the comma, like a normal person? So it was cool that it asked that question. So let's do our thing again. Find text edit. Do file new. Paste. Save. sfire.text. And then change the name of sfire.text to HTML. Maybe I didn't say it specifically. Maybe I thought it was obvious, but it's obviously not. I mean, there's no reason for it to be obvious. HTML files are just text files. But when they're named HTML files, your OS gets kind of wonky about it. It's like, I think it's the web page. I don't think he wants to edit, or I think he wants to edit in a weird way or whatever. So if you call it .txt, then it's going to act like a text file. If you call it .html, then it's going to load it like a web page. So just changing the name like that is all you have to do. So I've got high hopes for this.
I just thought of some other things you could do. You could like add prefixes randomly, because that's something
Yes.
that could be stored in the JavaScript, and or you can use other manipulate words in other ways similarly.
Yes. Someday we can talk about why these are so small and how to make sure they're not small. It's not too hard. So I'll generate one and the other one. Let's boost this a little bit and so adding ES instead of just S. And I'm superstitious about even changing tabs when it's typing like this. Otherwise, we would go look at the Midjourney results here. I'm okay if it's in a different window. I'm superstitious about tabs. I don't know why. Probably broke once early in days. Okay. Text edit, new, paste, save. Let's see what happens if I save over sfr.html. Ooh, actually, maybe I'm going to name this something different anyway. And then I'm going to save the .txt thing. And I don't have that anymore, so let's grab this, paste, oops. Paste, SFI. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. And I like the idea of, I like your idea, RJ, of prefixes and suffixes, of course.
And even all of those glossary terms that I mentioned in the beginning, all of
Yep,
those could be
exactly.
put into an
Yep.
array and programmatically added in using random, possibilities for when to add them where.
Yep. So I would say these aren't too different. And to RJ's point, it's kind of random anyway. And especially I've got chaos 50, so we're lucky to even be getting rooms.
Well, the same prompt, if you do it, or say just regenerate, it'll create a different image.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have this
Think
so-called
they
control.
think they're controlling it,
they're in control when they're not in control. It's sort of like, okay, I prayed for this and now it happened, or I did this thing that I always, I did my lucky thing and now it happened because I did my lucky thing. It's sort of like superstition, it's like,
Yep.
are we trying to prove superstition works here or?
Yep. This one is definitely different. So this is the kind of difference that I think that it's obvious, right? So this is without the ES.
But we don't know why. We don't know why it's different.
These are all like, we don't, and it doesn't matter too much. But there's no Buddhas here. There's a Buddha there. This one's got two diagonal things, which is maybe chance. I would do a lot more of these to kind of diagnose it. But I think I wouldn't even do that. What I would do is like, yeah, this is getting pretty interesting. So you could add ish here or EY, or you could make it Lisp instead of being Gollum, like Bobby said. So I like it. It's going somewhere. So hopefully you get the general idea. Actually, I like that lotus flower too. That's cool. The ESs mess up the words enough that it can't recover them as well as it could with just the S's. This wide angle, that's crazy too. Okay. Let's talk about, I could keep going for a long time, but I should probably get off to breakfast and stuff. Probably you guys too. You have lives to live instead of hacking around. So I hope that the general idea is clear. It's pretty easy, especially if you have a little bit of a template, it's pretty easy to tell ChatGPT to write an HTML page that does something interesting. I learned that something interesting is it's easy for me to know what's like pretty straightforward to tell ChatGPT to tell JavaScript. So I because I know all the data backend data structures and stuff and how JavaScript works, I know what's easy and what's hard to make it do the right thing. So I learned that not everybody thinks that JavaScript data structures and stuff like that is intuitively obvious. So maybe we can talk through that a little bit more. Here's how to ask ChatGPT, what's easy, what's hard, when you're writing a JavaScript app for me. And then we went through, we didn't do a great job of it, we didn't document it, but we went through how to work with the text file coming from ChatGPT to turn it into an HTML file that you can load in your web browser. Scott went and tested on iPhone and found it broken. I suspect, Scott, that iPhone sandboxes the JavaScript or something like that, and it may be easy to fix, maybe hard to fix. We'll see. Another thing, by the way, you could, it wouldn't fix it. You could take any of these files and put them on a web server someplace, and they would work from the web server. And it could be a static site host, even. It doesn't have to be a server. So that's something we can look at if you want to share these with friends, or maybe an easier way to, Scott had to like copy the file onto his phone and then find the file and then load it. An easier way to do that might be just to make a URL for it. And we could talk about free ways to do that. So that's all kind of next steps. Another big next step is publishing these. Right now, they don't have, they don't have a copyright or a license. There's no way to find the person who made this, so you can say, hey, you've got a bug, or hey, I invented a new thing that's I added to yours. Can you, take it and run with it? So I wonder what we should do for today. I could dump all these HTML files into the channel without much explanation, and everyone would wonder what the heck these things are. I could.
You can put them
not
on the
do that.
website.
Yeah, I could put them on the website. Doing anything with them kind of means documenting more, instead of having having to watch this long thing, writing some documentation for what's going on, how to use them, all that kind of stuff. That's a technical debt, is the way that we would call it in programming ease. We've got a debt now of writing the documentation before it really makes sense to anybody who hasn't been hanging out. So I'm torn. One way to do it is just to kind of dump everything. We could dump it on the website, and then it wouldn't be in everybody's face. So maybe I'll do that. That's actually a good next step. I'll add some pages to the website, including these little HTML toys. And then for folks who know how to find it, you'll know what to do. And for folks in the channel, they won't be confused by a bunch of random HTML files that they don't know whether they're safe, whether they're not safe, whether they're interesting, useful, or boring, or why they look so dumb. So it's a plan. I'll dump a bunch of stuff on the website today. Probably, well, today sometime. And I'll also get this this recording and the other recordings in the queue. I think I'm up to 2 in the queue right now. I'll get those up by tomorrow sometime.
Thanks, Peter.
Cool.
Thanks, Stacy. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, RJ. Thanks, Claire. Thanks,
Are you
Scott.
gonna have sushi
Thanks,
again?
Andre. Not sushi today. It's a
Whatever it
rainy
is,
day and
enjoy.
we're rainy, windy day, so we're not going to drive out for sushi. We've got leftovers too. I think it's tuna casserole actually for breakfast,
That sounds
which is not
good.
leftovers. It's newly made, but anyway.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Cool, thank
Cheers.
you. Have a great
Thanks-
lunch
thanks
or
all.
breakfast. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks.